Hello, welcome back to Tromsø Twilight. This is the channel where I, Vincent, talk to you about books, movies, music that I find interesting, that I enjoy, or a combination of the two. This will be a video about Welcome to the Dollhouse, which is a 1995 film from Todd Solondz. I went to see it yesterday at the cinema here, Verdensteatret, because it's 30 years since it was released. I'd never seen it before, although I have seen two of his other films, the two that followed this one. And I'll come back to that later. Welcome to the Doll's House is a relatively low-budget black comedy about a character called Dawn Wiener. Dawn is played by Heather Matarazzo in her first role, and Dawn Wiener is in 7th grade in American junior high. That means that she's in the first year of school and she is 12 or 13 years old. She's bullied, excluded, not well liked. People call her slurs, they threaten her, they graffiti her locker, exclude her at lunchtime, generally make her life a misery. She has one friend who's in the year below her. His name is Ralphie. He seems to kind of be a pretty sweet kid who's maybe in love with her, and they have a little den that they've built in the back garden, which is called the Special People's Club. And Dawn, at one point, when she's being bullied by another girl, says, me and my neighbor have got this club. You can be the vice president if you want. So Dawn knows that she's not liked. She knows that she's not popular. She knows that people don't find her attractive, but she can't really understand why. And she's trying very hard to lift herself out of this situation, but she doesn't really know how to do so. And she has two siblings, an older brother and a younger sister. Her older brother is starting a band, and I think it's just great. He's a clarinet player, and he's trying to put together a rock band. So he's got like a drummer and a keyboard player. And then they get this popular guy from their senior high school class to come and sing and play guitar. His name is Steve Rogers. And Steve Rogers is played by Eric Mabius, who is the boss in Ugly Betty. And it's funny because in Ugly Betty, Eric Mabius's character is supposed to be like this hunk that loads of girls are interested in, and he's constantly sleeping with loads of women. And I found it so implausible in Ugly Betty because I just couldn't see his charisma or that he was especially attractive. But it does really work in Welcome to the Doll's House. He does really well as this like bimbo hunk guy who wants to be Jim Morrison. And Dawn becomes kind of obsessed with him. She also gets her first boyfriend in the film, who is a guy called Brandon. He's played by Brendan Eugene Sexton. He starts off as her antagonist, but he's also kind of seems to be interested in her. So, all right, I'm not going to tell the story of the film. There's loads of things that happen that I wouldn't want to spoil in case you've never seen it before. But what I will say about this film is that it has these really kind of recognizable characters from, the teenage years of your life. And there is no way of predicting what will happen between these characters or in the plot through the film. So it's like a high school movie with none of the tropes of a high school movie. It also is a kind of very satirical film about people's self-involvement, the way that families, in an unacknowledged fashion, favoritize one or more of their children, and also about like just the appalling, irrational unpleasantness of high school teachers, your peers, peer groups, and social conventions. It's also a film about still being a child, but with the adult world starting to encroach into your childhood and you don't really understand it. So it's like meeting everything for the first time. Her brother's band is like the most amazing thing she's ever seen. And I kind of really relate to this thing of like some pretty average local band feeling hugely important to you when you're in your teens and kind of discovering live music. Also, like sexuality coming into your life before you really understand what it is. One of my favorite moments in the film is she's heard that this guy she has a crush on, Steve Rogers, has finger fucked a girl who's the same age as her, and she obviously doesn't know what it means, so she's like looking at her fingers in the mirror, and then when she meets him to try to like flirt with him, she says that she's not playing the piano particularly well today because she sprained her finger the previous day. Music is really well used in this film to kind of like dramatic effect that is also comedic. It's edited in a way that is often very like funny and witty. It looks great. The style is kind of, I'm really impressed how Todd Solondz kind of came into filmmaking with such an original kind of acerbic but funny, satirical, camp kind of point of view. The only person it reminded me of is like maybe John Waters, but it's not like a John Waters film. It's just it has a similar kind of slightly campy, slightly offensive sensibility. All in all, I'll say that this film, like it, I really loved it, and it reminded me of how when you're a kid or you're in your early teens, you can see that you're being bullied, you can see that you're being excluded, and you feel like it's just wrong. You can't understand why. This was my experience of being that age, and I think many people have felt that way, and I think this film captures it very well. What it also captures is that when you grow older, you look back, you realize that you were also very cruel. There's like Dawn can see that other people are treating her badly, but she doesn't seem to be aware that she behaves in similar ways to the people whose approval she doesn't need or isn't focused upon. It also reminds me of like these friendships or these relationships, these early attempts at romantic relationships that you have when you're that age, where nobody is old enough to be able to communicate properly yet, and so it's like you're trying to have a relationship with a person, but you really don't understand how to do it, so it's just doomed to failure. The film also kind of explores like how economic and class differences overlap with these like social divides in a way that children don't necessarily yet understand intellectually, but that they replicate in their own relationships with each other. To me, it's maybe the most realistic film I've ever seen about being this age, going to school. I can't, even though it's like a slightly stereotyped, campy comedy, there's some kind of core of recognizable truth about being that age and just not working out how to live in the way that you want to. Just to finish up, I will say that I saw the film after this, Happiness. That was much darker. It was the first Solondz film that I saw in my early 20s or in my late teens. And it was, it's also a comedy, a black comedy. And it's also a lot about like human frailty and the flaws in people. But it goes a bit harder on like taboo and the more unpleasant side of it than this film does. I saw the film also after that, Storytelling, I think it's called, or Telling Stories. I think it's called Storytelling. That one, to me, was like too acerbic. It was satirical in a way that was like almost cruel, or like just maybe too bleak for my tastes. This film, Welcome to the Dollhouse, although it is very sarcastic and quite acerbic, it also has like a certain tenderness about it. There's a scene where Dawn Wiener is sitting on the bonnet of the car watching her brother's band play in the garage and singing the song which is the title of the film, and there's just something really like sweet about it. I'm interested to know if you've seen any of Todd Solondz's other movies, or if you've seen this movie and how you feel about it. Please let me know in the comments. If you would like to see me talking about other movies or about books or about music, please do subscribe. Hit the like. Thanks for listening. See you soon.